Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of ARRI Asia Hour. My name is Darlene, and I will be your moderator for this episode. Now, as you all know, or if you didn't know, 2 days ago, the world celebrated International Women's Day, and today we want to continue that tradition. So, we've invited two very talented female DPs from the Philippines to talk about their recent film, Fangirl, and also their journey as women filmmakers. But before we introduce our guests, just a quick reminder to everyone that you can start sending in your questions anytime during the live, and our guests will try to answer them all throughout the episode. Don't forget to click the question mark symbol at the bottom of your screen so you can access the chat box. All right, so joining us today are two of the Philippines' most talented cinematographers. Both of them have had their fair share of award-winning and nominated films, backed up by years of experience and tons of film, TV, and commercial projects, both mainstream and independently produced. Recently, they worked as camera operators for the critically acclaimed film Fangirl, and they're here to share the details of their experience of shooting this film without any rehearsals and also almost entirely handheld. So let's all welcome Anne Monzon and Cesca Lee. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to ARRI Asia
Hi.
Hour.
Hi, good
Hello.
afternoon from
Thank you
where
for
we are.
having us.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we're very, very happy to have you here because as soon as we found out about how you shot the film, Fangirl, we were very interested and we wanted immediately to invite you guys because Fangirl is a really interesting film. It's about a fangirl who had to face the harsh reality of fan culture. And because the story was so incredibly unique, even the cinematography was very unconventional. And we just want to know why did your team choose to shoot it this way? Why did your team choose to shoot it unrehearsed? And then also, how did you go about shooting it like this? Any of you could go. Maybe Anne could go first.
Yeah, actually, so we're camera, Cheska and I are practicing DPs ourselves. But for this, we were brought on the show by Neil Daza, who's the cinematographer for Fangirl with director Antoinette Hadaone. Um, they've been, as far as I know, it's been a long development of this concept that the director Tonette and Neil Daza have been talking about it for a while, conceptually and all that. So when they finally got greenlit for the project, that's when we came in. So all the deliberations on the creative decisions on how to treat the film, the handheld, the female perspective, getting female camera operators, all that. It was a discussion that was already in place by the time Cheska and I were on board. Um, but yeah, I think does that answer your question?
Yeah.
It took a while for the film to finally happen.
Right. Cheska, maybe you want to add anything? Like, how did you go about shooting it this way, like unrehearsed and completely handheld?
I think early on, what Sir Neil mentioned to us is that uh, he and Directonet talked about capturing the rawness of the film. So that is when they decided to do a documentary style of filmmaking with this one. Also, our lead actress, Charlie, I think this was her first billing film. So there were a lot of emotions and the process that the characters were going through. A lot of them, they wanted to get how raw the performance would be. So, with that said, we did very minimal rehearsals. On longer takes, we would do movement rehearsals, but never really line reading and delivering what the scene would do. Because again, the rawness of each scene that the characters would deliver, that was the objective of what we should capture as camera operators for the film.
Mhm. What would you say was like the biggest struggle since it was very unique and I would assume it was very hard. What was the most challenging part of shooting it like this? Cheska, maybe.
Me specifically, I think it was decided very early on that the whole film would be shot in handheld. So a lot of thinking went through which is the best camera that we could use for such a physically heavy film shoot. Also, I think for me personally, one of the toughest things was doing a handheld type of shoot on moving vehicles, because when we were starting, almost one third of the film were shot with the characters inside the car. So when we tried doing it with car mounts, it was very hard for us, for the visual to look so seamless with the rest of the handheld shot. So we had to think of a way where we can still handheld the camera even though the car was moving. So I
Wow.
think that was one of those things that we had to really figure out during the preparations. I think since the director didn't really want to do rehearsals, and we always wanted to do things in a one whole take, there are a couple of takes where Ate Anne and I would run out our cards and have a full 12-minute one take each time. So there was a lot of choreography between me and her, trying to figure out where the characters would be, and then at the same time checking where the other camera is so we won't show ourselves on the frame. That was also, I think, a bit difficult during the shoot.
Yeah, we
How
can't
about
imagine.
you? You, Ate Anne.
I think for those of I think one of the most difficult things for me to shoot and that film was there was a for those who have seen the film, it opens with a mall show with a lot of um, extras, but actually they're already the people who were in the location, they were free to watch the shoot. Because I had to do double duty then as both DP and a camera operator, and it was quite an experience since there's a lot of people that we had to navigate ourselves through, and then some got really rowdy and weren't listening to the crowd control and the location managers who were trying to get them out of the camera's way. So they were really, I felt like they were purposely getting into our way, and then we had to make them work around all that. So that was me camera operating, and at the same time being the DP of that day, had to manage the lighting and had to. There were so many things happening, and I mean, if you see if you watch the film, you can see how chaotic that whole um, scene looked. So it was much worse during the shoot. It was fun, but it was a lot of things to manage.
Yeah, wow. Those all of what you said sounded really hard. But we don't even like we can't imagine how difficult it was for you. And actually, I think the struggle, the challenges were really worth it because the film was amazing, and I think you got the result
Thank
that
you.
you wanted. Yeah. And
Thank you.
we're very happy because in a way Ari was a part of this because you shot this with the Alexa Mini and also with the other Ari equipments. What was the reason for this camera choice?
Very early on, we knowing that those were the creative considerations that the director and the DP already had. The limitations and the mini was ideal for the size that for its size. The way we knew that we were shooting it handheld or unsupported or like without rehearsals, we had to be able to move freely by ourselves. So the mini was the most ideal camera that we saw for that. We went through a number of camera packages. We were putting things together to get one that's perfect for this project. So other than the size of the mini, it was um, the the raw feature. The we shot it in ARRI RAW because for the exposure also, since there was a number of occasions, it's not since it's a very documentary style of shoot, there really wasn't a lot of lighting or um, controlled controlled scenarios involved. So we really had to be able to move freely. So that's the size, and then to be able to have latitude to adjust it in post if we fell into like a really dark area where there wasn't lighting. There was and that also happened a lot. So there was a number of things that the Alexa Mini was the ideal camera that we chose for that package. And
For people who actually saw the film, you would see how many day exterior sequences we have. And knowing that the Philippines is a very tropical country, our weather is really unpredictable. So a lot of sun and shadow movement are happening while we were shooting all our day exterior scenes. So I think shooting in ARRI Raw was a smart choice since you could actually control much more in post than not shooting in ARRI Raw.
Right. Thank you guys for saying that, because that's actually exactly one of the reasons why we have the mini and the mini LF is so you guys, filmmakers and cinematographers, could have like the freedom to shoot, physically take unique camera shots, and also to like creatively be able to focus on your story. And so really thank you for choosing Ari to shoot
of
this amazing
course,
film. Yeah. Anyway, one thing
always.
I want to go back to is you've mentioned that your team was mostly women, and all the camera operators for this movie was female. And that's really interesting to me because even though the film was physically taxing, it just shows how women are now thriving in fields and in industries that were previously predominantly male, and that's something amazing for everyone. Now, what we want to know is what was your story? Like, how was your journey as women cinematographers? Were there any challenges in you trying to achieve your dream career? Anne, maybe you can go first.
Um, and I started way before Cheska did, and I think so far ano, at the time I was the only female, I was the only woman apprentice DP who was apprenticing with another woman DP. Her name is Shane Sarte. Um, so I think uh, I came into it with with the very strong people already who have conquered the scene before I did. So I would say that it was much easier on my end when I had to start working. There was already I didn't feel like I faced the problems that you would normally hear about biases against women on the set, behind the camera especially, because there were women who went ahead of me. By that I mean Marisa Florendo, Lee Briones, and Shane Sarte. They they had to take on all the biases before so that we could step on set and it was all perfectly normalized already. So I was very lucky in that sense that I didn't feel like I was a woman having to work in this situation. It's and it's because people before me had already worked for that to happen. So I'm very grateful to them. It would just feel like you're normal trying to make it in the business, whether you're a woman or not, whether you're a man or a woman. I think it's all the same, pretty much a similar story already, because some women had to take in the challenge, more of the challenges than I had to. So we're very lucky at this point.
Yeah. Well, Cheska, maybe you have a different experience since you, as Anne said, you came in later than
A
she
little
did. What was
later.
your experience like?
um, I didn't actually go to film school. But one thing that I am really grateful for the film industry in the Philippines is that everybody's just so welcoming and everybody's so warm. Everybody's willing to teach the younger ones on how to do filmmaking here. On the very first set that I ever stepped on, I was working as a BTS, behind the scene photographer, videographer, and the DP on that set was a woman, which is Miss Lee Briones. And I was just amazed on how she commands the set and what the images look when you look at the monitor. And it was, I think, easier for me since I am already seeing a woman accomplishing what I want to be. In my head, I could do that too because another woman can do it or is doing it. So it was I think compared to other countries, I have talked to some DPs from other countries. I think it is fairly easier for women in the Philippines to actually have a career as cinematographers. Also, having all the big film studios in the Philippines, they were mostly ran by women. So women on film sets is not a new scenario for our industry. So me as a woman coming into a film set is not weird for anyone. So we are used to seeing women on our film set, and I think that also made it a bit easier for females to actually transition into becoming cinematographers.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I think the biggest takeaway we can get from what you both said is that, we really need female role models in any kind of industry. They're important so that the younger generation has someone to look up to. And the Philippines is very, very lucky to have you two as inspirations.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure a lot of young filmmakers are looking up to you and just dreaming to be like you. Now, is there
Thank
anything,
you.
if there's anything you want to say, do you have any advice to maybe these people who aspire to be like you? What would you say to them?
I
Uh,
think I think you should just feel free to get in touch. I think it's a strange the industry is very competitive, but it would also surprise you or anyone to know, like especially in this country, especially with the guild that we have, the LPS, the Grupo ng Pilipinong Cinematographer. Everyone is very helpful, and everyone is very. No one is selfish about the knowledge, the education, the journey. So, just try to reach out to somebody, and then they'll help you out. People are nicer than you think they are.
Yes.
Um, because the only reason that we accomplished as much as we have at this point is because of the people who helped us along the way as well. So just feel free to get in touch with somebody in the industry, somebody you look up to, somebody you respect. More often than not, it's people will accommodate you, people will answer your questions, and will be. I mean, the journey is for everybody together. It's not I've never really felt like people have been selfish about their knowledge in the industry and their experience. So it's the only reason why things are getting better and people are getting more opportunities. Women are getting more opportunities. There's no bias. There's no in our case, and it's because of the people who have been kind enough to help us out.
I think one thing at least younger filmmakers should remember is it's not actually a race. So you could actually take your time to build your craft, hone your craft, build your aesthetics, your visual taste, your creative taste. And you don't need to rush that. You could actually just take your time. And also it really helps to find a mentor that you look up to, and somehow you want to say na I want to be like him or her, because it's easier to actually grow as a filmmaker if you're surrounded with the right type of people. And like what Ate Ann said, everybody is just so generous with their knowledge, with their time. If you ask the older senior DPs properly, they would take you in. They're very willing to teach the younger ones. Just like what happened with Sir Neil and I've been working as a camera operator, but I've always known that I wanted a mentor type of a cinematographer within like a circle within me. And even though I was already working when I approached Sir Neil to apprentice or to train under him, he was still very welcoming of that. And a lot of DPs in the Philippines are the same. So really, if you ask properly and nicely, and if they would see how eager you are and how much you really just want to learn and how much you just really want to be on set, everybody's just so giving, so generous with that.
Right. So, guys, filmmakers who are watching this, just be don't be afraid. Just step out, as they've said.
Yep.
Go and ask people for advice, for mentorship, and good luck.
Yes.
Actually, yeah. So now, actually, I think we have a lot of questions from the audience. So maybe we should start our Q&A. So actually, a lot of this is questions. First thing is a question about lighting. The question is, since it's unrehearsed, what was the biggest challenge setting up the set in terms of lighting? Like, any of you guys can answer.
I think
Oh yeah.
during our location, the house location, which is also a big chunk of the film, since everything is unrehearsed, Sir Neil and his gaffer rigged all the lights in the ceiling. So there won't be any stands that we would see whenever the actors and the camera would move freely within the space we had.
Like, okay. And do you have anything to like they're wondering how you shot the light raw. Like, if you since it's a raw shoot, how did you do the lighting?
Yeah, since it's always been agreed that it's a documentary feel, it's a lot of free camera movement. The light, the GNE team were um they set it up outside of the frame of where the camera might walk into or fall into, or there's a little like a walkthrough with the director. There's no real rehearsal, and that there are marks that are set on. So it's a very, I think the question would be best answered by the DP, Neil Daza. But
Oh, okay.
they made sure to make the set as free as possible for us to move around in. But
So
there
we
were
don't
still,
have to limit anything. We don't have to
yes.
limit stands or whatever.
And then for the exterior tracking shots, it's really mostly available light. Like, it's a street lamp. It's a with just a little fill inside the car. So that's how the ARRI Rose really did a lot of help,
Yep.
because we had to,
Really helpful
to
with that.
it was all pulled up in post after. So the location check was the preps for the film really took that into consideration already, that there won't be a lot of lighting involved, and it had to be like a free environment for the camera to move around in.
Right. Okay. Next question is about post. It's a question from Partha. In post, did you find any shots which turned out challenging to be stitched together, be it continuity issues or color lighting mismatch?
I was not present
We were
at
not in
we
post.
were not
Oh,
involved
okay.
in the post
Right.
process, but I do know that since there wasn't just one take of every scene, there were a few. Um, I think it's a testament to how good the editor is as well, Ben Tolentino, because they could find the the proper emotion from
Matching.
different takes, and the proper match of shots and continuity from everything that we've shot. So props to Ben. That's all his
But
that's all he's doing.
yeah, I remember something when we were shooting all the tracking shots and we were doing this one long take where Paolo and Charlie could just like do whatever they want while they were driving. And my concern was we were driving along not a paved road. So sometimes there would be a bunch of trees covering the sun, and then after that just clear sky. And I was trying to expose in between the take. During the take, I would try to expose where the sun is or if there were no sun. And that was my concern when we actually came back to base, and Sir Neil was asking me how was it, and I was telling him, Sir, I was panicking. Sir, there was no sun, and then there was the sun, and then there were clouds, and then there were da, 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 da. And then all he said was, relax, we'll see it in post.
That's always
It
the line. We'll do it in post.
Unfortunately, it's
No,
one of those
well,
projects that
really, it wasn't
had to
really fixing it in post, but I guess it was really just finding which cut would seamlessly go to another shot. Again, I think it's the power of the editor we've had, who was a long collaborator of our director as well. And then at the same time, you just know your camera has that range that somehow you could still manipulate it enough in post.
Okay. That was a very nice, insightful thing to know. Like, thank you to the editor of Fangirl. Also, you
Hi,
contributed.
Ben.
It's really a
Yeah,
team
okay.
effort.
So, another question is, did the movie still incorporate a storyboard in the pre-production despite being raw and unrehearsed? Yeah.
No,
Nope.
no
No
board.
storyboards, not even a shot
Shot
list.
list.
It's
Right.
really a scene walkthrough, a breakdown on the day. It's not even a rehearsed. It's not planned. So it really all happened in the fly, if you can imagine.
When we were doing, for those who saw the film, when Charlie was at the back of the pickup truck, and then being the youngest, I think I was pushed to it. But I was
Peer
the one.
pressured.
I was the one at the back with her, and all I'd have is my director on a two-way radio in an earpiece, and then she would just instruct me, okay, go to her face, focus on the eyes, pan up to the sky, look for the street lights, look for that, and then go back. So it was really very intuitive, and we really had no shot list or storyboard prepared for any of our shooting days.
Right. That's just a testament to how amazing the camera team was. Like,
Thank you.
props
Yes,
to all of you guys.
you have to give credit to the ACs. They're the ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were very good.
And really, I think a lot of it also came from when Sir Neil actually chose us to operate. He trusted our skills as DPs and as operators, because a lot of the things, though we'd get general instructions, when we start rolling the camera, it was just us. And I think that trust that came from our director and our cinematographer really helped us to push how we think is the best way to cover each scene that we had.
I think it's important to note that for a project like this to happen, it's the amount of trust that everybody has with each other. Because like I said, everything is on the fly, and then the director couldn't always see the shot. The DP couldn't always see the shot and approve that. So they would have had to trust both of us, which they did, and we have to trust the editor to find the shot that we shot that they would finally put in the picture. And it's just a collaboration. It couldn't have happened without everybody working on it together that way.
Another question is, what was the aspect ratio the film was shot on, and was it shot on Open Gate ARRI RAW? I think you answered the ARRI RAW part already. So, what was the aspect ratio of the film?
There was
Do you guys
they made
remember?
us. I don't remember the exact measurement, but it was a custom
Yeah.
aspect ratio that they were physically during prep that the director chose. She was shown a bunch of aspect ratios that we could work with or make our own. So I think eventually that's what they did. It's somewhere around 130, 1.30 something. Right, Cheska?
Yep.
Sorry, it happened a long time.
Yeah.
It was a
But
while now. But
yeah,
it's an odd aspect ratio. It's not
our
exactly.
our director really works on how an image feels or what emotion an image gives you. So I remember when we were doing the camera test, we were actually shooting in different aspect ratios, trying to decide in which aspect ratio we are gonna shoot. And at the end, I think Sir Neil and Directonet actually created an aspect ratio which I think they think fits properly for the story. But yeah, we can't remember it right now.
It's a
It's okay.
strange measurement. It's a weird aspect
It
ratio,
yeah, yeah.
and it's custom, so it's not really a preset.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a question from Kyle. Justin, how did Neil Daza communicate or strategize the plan for a raw and unrehearsed cinematography to the camera operators?
I think it's important because I wasn't there on the first day, right, Cheska? I wasn't able to make it on the first day. On my first day on set, they had already shot one day before. I asked Sir Neil if, after the walkthrough, I asked Sir Neil if he wanted me to capture certain shots this way, to move this way, move the camera this way, see this and that. He was like, it's up to you. So, oh, okay, so that's how it goes. Yeah, okay. So that's basically that's how he communicated what he wanted. It's really, as camera operators, you really have to know how to work with the different DPs that you would be working with. It's different styles, and every project needs a different take or a different style. So this particular project, that was the mindset that we all had. It's really up to whatever you feel like you need to shoot, whatever you feel like you need to take. So it was all very instinctive. And then after a take, when the director feels like she needs another shot or another kind of coverage or another perspective of the same action, that's the only time she would let us know. Or Sri Neil would tell us that we would have to move around this way. But it hardly ever happened also. It's really just for, yeah, it's really just for that, for additional shots, additional, yeah.
And I think Sir Neil allowed us to be collaborators in creating the image, because I remember one time we were shooting a night scene and we were asking him what color temperature should we set our cameras.
I remember.
and, then, and then I think someone said 4:8, and then the other said 4:3, and then
The three of us were standing around in the middle of the
yeah,
street for like
yeah,
10 minutes trying to discuss what
color
color temp
temperature.
we would set the night scene, the first night scene for. Because
And he
again,
was
it was really
And he was just really asking for our opinion. And as camera operators, that really gives you a sense of relief that okay, my DP trusts me. So he wants to get, an input on how to create this image. And I think that's the that's a testament of how collaborative Sir Neil was when we were really doing fangirl.
how the entire set was, because the AD was waiting for us to decide what color
Yeah.
temp we wanted for the
Yes.
first night scene that we
Yeah.
were going to shoot. So that
Right.
was
Okay.
nice.
Next question: what are the format and lenses you use for the film?
We used a Leica Summicron set.
Sumikron, yeah.
Yeah, a standard Summicron set. And but I remember we shot a lot of it on the 50. There were sometimes a little wider than that. Some very rarely did we use a tighter lens than that, because again, it was all how Tonette felt with the image that she was seeing. It wasn't exactly the numbers or the kind of lenses that she wanted to use. It's really the feel when we were there, when we were on set, when we've shot a take already, that everyone would decide if it works or not for that particular scene. So we ended up not really using the tele end of the set, but we ended up mostly on the 50 and wider.
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, like this is gonna be the last question because we're almost out of time, and this is my favorite question. It's for Anne. So the question is: Anne is a new mom. What does she think will be the challenges for her as a cinematographer while taking care of a newborn?
Who asked that question? Who knew I was a new?
I'm not sure. It's an anonymous viewer, someone you might know probably.
Someone I know, one of my friends. I think the challenge is the challenge is much harder now with the pandemic, really. I know that, like in my head, before I became pregnant, I was preparing myself for this time when I would be working while I was pregnant. And in the end, I couldn't even go out to work because of how unsafe it was outside in the world, being pregnant and shooting. But I think the challenge would be managing time, managing schedules. I feel like people are more supportive. Like producers are more understanding. I had a project lined up that didn't take me out of the project when I became pregnant. I had like people on set are more understanding already, and I feel like I have a lot of support in that end. It's really directors I've worked with for a while, production designers, assistant directors who would give me time to, who I know would give me time to step away from set to pump milk or things like that. But generally, I feel like the environment is more open now for other than women cinematographers. It's whatever that comes along with it, which is motherhood, pregnancy. And I think it's also important for people to know that it can be done. People are doing it. People have done it. Like Rachel Morrison has done it. As you can see in her photos, it's. I also feel like it's important that we keep sharing what we do, just so people just know. Like life goes on. Other than being moms, we're also cinematographers. That really doesn't stop. So it's great that we're getting the support that we have from all our other DP friends, from all the directors, and the other staff on set. People are more understanding now, I feel.
I'm so amazed by you, Anne, and also by Cesca, because you're not only breaking the standard of women, but also you're breaking you're proving yourself as a mom, and I think that's really really like hard, and that's a great achievement. Congratulations and good luck to
Thank you.
your next project. Okay, and I know it looks like we have a lot more questions, but unfortunately we really don't have time to answer them, so we have to end it here. Thank you so much, Anne and Cesca, for joining us. Our viewers definitely learned a lot from you and are even more inspired by your hard work and passion, probably.
Thank
and
you.
and if
Thank you.
if any of our viewers is interested in watching Fangirl, it's available online on multiple streaming platforms. We'll be posting the link in the chat box so you can go check it out. And if any of you are interested to know what happened behind the lens, we will also post the link to the DP Neil Daza's blog, where all the camera operators wrote their experience about it on set. So you can go take a look at that as well. So again, thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thank you for sending in your questions. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We will be posting this episode soon, so you can rewatch it. If you have any more questions, please post it in our social media, and we will answer them soon. If you want to learn more about ARRI camera and lighting systems, we have a page on ARRI.com, which has all our webinars, including ARRI Tech Talk Live. We'll also post a link of that in the chat box. Yeah, right. So I guess that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you, Anne and Cesca, and we will see you guys in the next ARRI Asia Hour. Bye, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.